surf fishing in the summertime, how to get ready and prepared and get out the door and be successful. The first thing I like to pay attention to before I even leave out the door would be looking at the weather. You really want to look for thunderstorms. You really don't want to have a 10 to 13 foot graphite rod in your hand when there's a high potential of thunderstorms. So I like to use an app called Ventusky. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. It's a free app and free website. You can go on there and look at the waves. You could look at the current, the wind, the potential for thunderstorms and joules. I mean, it's pretty involved, but it lets you do a lot of preparation and even lets you see in advance what's going to happen. And it's been pretty dead on accurate since I've used them. Another thing you want to look at would be the tides and the lunar phases. So generally in the summertime, I like to fish the high tide because I feel like it pushes in the cooler ocean water with more dissolved oxygen, because we all know colder water holds more oxygen. And I feel like that brings in the bait fish, and then the pelagic fish come in behind them to feed on them. So I mean, I feel like 2 hours to 3 hours before high tide all the way through high tide till about 3 hours after is probably your optimal window in the summertime when you're surf fishing. If you can't get in the top of high tide, I would like to go really early, but I'll discuss that a little bit later on. Lunar phases are pretty important. There's certain days where the moon will actually cause the fish not to bite as well, and there's days where they'll be feeding like crazy, like they haven't eaten in months. So lunar phases, pay attention to them. I'm not going to get too involved in it, but there's plenty of apps that show you your fish score compared to the lunar phases. I honestly feel like going early is the best option in the summertime because the water temperature is still cooler. There's more dissolved oxygen. From my personal experience, I've always gotten really good pompano and crazy amounts of fish when I get there before the sunrise at first sunlight. It's like a dinner bell ringing for the fish, so that's honestly, I feel like, the best time to go. But if not, try to schedule it around high tide if you really can. I fish most of the times 12 to 13 hours, so it really doesn't make a difference. I'll fish low tide and high tide. Sometimes I do better at low tide, but I've noticed most of the time in the summertime, I've done better during around the high tide. Another thing you really need to look at before you go out to the beach is the regulations of the beaches that you want to go to. A lot of beaches now won't let you park after dusk. Every state park in North Carolina will close at dusk, and they open at like 7 or 8 in the morning. Don't get there before they open up, so definitely pay attention to your times for your parking in your state parks. Places like Emerald Isle Beach, where you can't really find a good spot unless you have a hotel to get on the beach at night. At least I haven't found one. There's probably a couple good secret, alleyways you could find to park, but I haven't found one yet. So just really kind of scout out on Google Maps where you're going to park, what time they open, what time they close. There's a lot of paid parking now in North Carolina that's new, so be mindful that you might end up, especially around the Carolina Beach, Curry Beach area, you might end up spending $25 just to park, just to find out if there's fish there. So keep that in mind, that preparation is pretty important on a lot of these surf fishing trips you're going to make here in North Carolina. The last thing I would like to talk about real quick would be like the fishing gear, how I really get it prepared before the trip. I always like to get it prepared the night before, because when you try doing it in the morning and you're rushing, you'll always forget something, or at least I always forget something. My head gets wrapped around everything. Like, there's one trip when I went out there, brought all my reels and everything, but I forgot the handle to like my most important main Daiwa BG, so I ended up using like tiny little reels, like 1,000, 2,500 reels the whole time, just because I didn't have a handle and I was down a whole rod. So definitely make sure that I pack the night before. I double check everything. I almost have like a list in my head that I go over with. I've also forgotten like knives trying to pack up in the morning, and I get all the way out there and I have nothing to cut my mullet or my shrimp or bait with. Talk about frustrating. I ended up using, I think it was a throwaway plastic knife that I got out of takeout or something like that. I tried to cut a mullet up with, and that didn't work too well. It ended up working, but man, was it a struggle. Definitely make sure you get all your gear, your knives, your reels, your reel handles if you take them off. Make sure all your lines are spooled up. Matter of fact, I have a reel right now sitting, it's about half full, and I got a double uni knot tying the two lines together. and it's like right in the middle, so it hangs up at the very end of the cast. So I need to go ahead and take care of that before I even go surf fishing again. But it's just little details like that that are easy to forget. It can really make or break you when you get out there, whether you're going to get on fish and have a good time, or you're going to be flustered and frustrated and sit there and try to fight your reel the whole time because you have a double uni knot in there. So, I mean, just make sure all your gear is prepared ahead of the time. Try not to get prepared on the beach, because that's when you really rush stuff, and then you have wind blowing in your face and you have people watching you mess up. Yeah, definitely want to get that taken care of before you even leave the house. I have balloon tires for the surf. If you take the pier card out, you need the, drop net. There's different kind of loadouts you could do, but you definitely want to have a checklist before you go out. And definitely load up the night before instead of right before, because you will forget something. I know you will, because I always do. Anyway, that's just some quick little tips I wanted to share with you guys about surf fishing in the summertime. Some of the little things that I picked up on over the years. I will see you guys later.